I was given a lot of advice 4 years ago. In that summer before leaving for Philadelphia, everyone I spoke to seemed to have a suggestion to make. And although their words of wisdom were diverse, in the end, they always came back to that one cliche point. College will be the best years of your life. Something about that sentiment has always bothered me. I don't want to be living the best years of my life right now. And I certainly don't want them to be over today. Anyways, that's what I was thinking the day I got to Penn. Of course, I quickly realized that was the least of my worries. As a freshman, you don't have time to ponder the state of your happiness because you're quickly thrown into a competitive environment. What you realize quite early on is that it's a pretty tough curve at Penn, in all things. Get to Van Pelt too late on a Sunday morning, and there isn't a computer or even a desk to be found. Outside of the classroom, that active environment remains as intense. Although the library may be full on Sunday morning, bars and concerts are just as packed that Saturday night before. We've all clearly been confronted with this demanding atmosphere. And it was obviously overcoming its challenges which has prepared us to leave the ceremonies of today and go on to graduate schools, Capitol Hill, Wall Street, and nonprofits across the world. And what I like to think allowed us to accomplish this feat, and what will allow us to continue to succeed, is realizing that this competition already existed long before we arrived. We are, in fact, competing with history. When our football players suit up for a game, they don't simply take the field against opponents from Princeton or Yale, but against the legend of John Heisman. When our students sit down in a chemistry class, they don't simply study against the curve, but against the accomplishments of Nobel laureates who sat in those seats before them. Even when an a cappella group takes the stage, they don't simply perform in front of an audience, but in the shadow of artists such as John Legend. And while that competition is often hard to exceed, I'm incredibly grateful that we've had the chance to see what we have, to see how we match up. I have to say that while I have wholeheartedly enjoyed games at the Palestra and cheesesteaks at Pat's, it's been that connection to history which has truly shaped my experience here. I realize that Penn's obsession with Benjamin Franklin can go a bit far sometimes. But there is a bond there. There's a passage of time which creates a link from this graduation through all of those ceremonies which came before it, and finally to the day this institution opened its doors in 1751. We attend this university knowing that we sing songs that have been sung for hundreds of years, that governors and senators learned in our lecture halls, that some of the finest minds of the generations before us walked down Locust Walk. These images and these traditions are not facts. They're not something to be relegated to freshman handbooks and commencement ceremonies. Rather, they demonstrate that we are taking part in something so much larger than this graduating class. They are reminders of past students who went to games at the Palestra, who couldn't get a desk in the library on Sunday morning, and who went on to truly shape society. These images and these traditions, this history, is a constant challenge. It is evidence of people who, with the same resources as ourselves, attain greatness. Now, I don't have any advice to close with, but I will say that the demanding semesters I've spent at Penn, the 4 years of history I've taken part in, have instilled in me a desire never to settle for what is adequate, but to always strive for something more. I very much hope that this class always shares that sentiment. I do not expect that we will simply settle. And because of that, I believe that our best years are very much still to come.